This video is sponsored by Atlas VPN. Snape is pick-me bait, and you can't convince me otherwise. You can say a lot about the bitter goth kid who dedicated his life to abusing other children, but somehow, me is most of them. When Snape wasn't ruining the self-esteem of his students, he was pining for the girl who was never into him. Severus Snape is the epitome of daddy issues, as every girl with him took a look at that cold, disapproving demeanor and latched on to that last-minute twist that he was secretly a good guy all along, forgetting or retconning every bad thing he ever did as the tragic backstory of a lost soul who just needed to be loved, and they were just the person to give it to him. The man was a magic Nazi, a bad teacher, and a hero. But people really need to stop romanticizing the man with enough red flags to give Poland flashbacks, as any fictional character that spawns a religion, I think needs to be taken down a peg. You heard me, Snape had a cult. You'll think people didn't take it too far? But what you should never go too far without is Atlas VPN. Yes, sponsorship time. The internet is a deceptively dangerous place. It's full of cookies and malware intent on stealing your information, and it can happen anywhere. At a coffee shop, at the airport, or even from the comfort of your own home. Thankfully, you can help mitigate the danger by signing up for Atlas VPN. Atlas uses state-of-the-art technology to secure your information from third parties, keeping your privacy private while also allowing you to make it look like you're in a different country. And from there, you can do the typical VPN bonuses of getting access to region-locked content, cut down your subscription services. Oh wait, it gets better. See, with a VPN, you can not only get access to region-locked content, but you can also get access to region-locked deals. Stuff that might be super expensive in the US might be dirt cheap in other places like, I don't know, India, for example. And this is all hypothetical, of course. Sign up for YouTube Premium, which is a whopping $11.99 a month, an easy steal of $1.69. A mere $2 a month, and you get to say goodbye to YouTube ads forever. Why would you not do this? You literally can't lose money with Atlas. And right now, Atlas VPN is running a huge discount, meaning that you can get Atlas VPN for $1.99 a month for 3 years locked in, with a 30-day money-back guarantee. Time is running out though, so go click on the link, get access to YouTube Premium through Atlas, and just go enjoy your life. Back to the video. Time to figure out why a borderline incel would get elevated to the point where people would start a religion about him just to marry him on the astral plane and let him possess their husbands for sex. I can't believe what I just said either. That's just the type of fandom we're dealing with. Also, this should go without saying, but fuck J.K. Rowling. So Severus Snape is kind of the best character in Harry Potter. Like, actually. Not much competition when your main character's only trait is a shitty childhood while his best friends are a know-it-all and a ginger. Snape's the asshole teacher who fucks with Harry because his mom didn't fuck with him. Yep, the ultimate thirst trap is just thirsty himself, with him spending his entire life before he died a virgin, hung up on a girl he was friends with in high school, who ultimately stopped being friends with him when he called her a mudblood, which is just a wizard slur for not having magic parents. And no, they didn't really try too hard to be creative with that one. But the sad, tragic backstory of Snape actually starts before he cucked himself, with his broken childhood, where his mom, having no standards, married a muggle. Growing up to be a lonely introvert who hated being at home, his incel journey began when he made up a try-hard username like Half-Blood Prince. Well, the broke-ass prince didn't have any friends, hated being at home, and couldn't wait to get sent to magical boarding school. But got real excited when he found out the cute girl nearby was also magical, so he'd finally found his first friend. And it was all downhill from there. As on board every parent's dream, Snape was telling Lily that they needed to end up in the same house, which, if you don't know what the houses are, just imagine the school founders had a stupid idea to separate kids based on personality type, and breaking that into 4 categories: the heroic kids who get laid, the smart kids, the racist ones, and the one literally labeled everyone fucking else. Now Snape, being the edgelord that he is, wants to be in the racist house because him trying to hype up the Hogwarts clan gets the attention of the man who will ruin half of his life before Snape finished himself off, James Potter. Now Harry's dad back then was, in a word, an asshole. He was that bad combination of a jock and more dangerously thinking that he's funny. So now we get an extroverted asshole and the spiteful nerd who thinks he's way nicer than he is. It was pretty much inevitable that things would get toxic, but trust me, it gets worse. See, Snape had a bit of a problem, as not only was his love interest in a different house, but he decided to double down on bad choices. As the thing everyone likes to gloss over about Snape is that while he was a victim of bullying, with stuff that went too far on too many occasions, Snape himself wasn't a soft boy who lost the girl. No, the little racist in training began bragging about pure purebloods the second he got at school, and dipping into the dark arts just became his new personality trait, as he formed his own friend group of Slytherins who were all just the Junior Racist Club, with them planning to join the Death Eaters at their first opportunity, which is just a group of like-minded individuals who like to wear hoods and talk about blood purity. I'm not saying that they're the WKKK, but they're definitely Nazis, which is pretty much the same thing these days. Snape, lacking self-esteem, fell into a bad group of friends, and while he probably wasn't racist before, he was definitely after. As no matter how many times Lily had to point out how he's rallying for people to kill her, he never put two and two together that he's the problem. But nah, fans took a look at him in a vicious cycle of retaliation where he cuts them, they hang him, and just think that Snape must be the ultimate victim. People really want to chalk up him inventing curses that disfigure, torture, and humiliate people to him just falling into the wrong crowd. He was just radicalized, guys. It's easy. It can happen to anybody. If only Snape just had like a better life, you know? Like, what if Hitler got into art school? People talk so much about what characters could have been, but in Snape's case, he was a kid who decided racists were his people and everyone else needed to be put down so that he can make his own self-esteem feel higher. Even after the incidents where he cuts James and gets held up by his ankles, a spell he invented, by the way, him calling Lily a mudblood was just the final straw, as she stopped being friends with him and would go on to date James in their senior year. Now, Snape could have used this opportunity as a chance to realize what he said was wrong and recognize how his behavior and his friends were hurting the woman he allegedly loves, but nah. He doesn't double, he triples down, joining the big bad Voldemort and working as a spy at Hogwarts, even eavesdropping on Dumbledore when he got the prophecy about who was going to be the one to beat Voldemort. Snitching to his boss, he quickly realized he had made a colossal mistake when suddenly his actions had consequences. As one of the two possible kids destined to defeat his boss, one of them happened to be the son of the girl he was not over. So, again, blood purity, genocide hate group. He's not gonna turn back for any of those reasons. The girl that he likes might get killed. Okay, no, now he's immediately gonna turn. As not only does he not trust Voldemort to not kill Lily, he goes to Dumbledore to save them instead, and has to be shamed into asking him to save not just Lily, but the other two. And from this point on, fast forwarding past where everyone dies, Snape is left angry, single, and still out of options, perfecting his older goth vibe with the angst people actually want. But in a long line of people thinking Snape is better than he is, this is where people really start lying about him, because villain crushes are huge. Dangerous, sexy, villains are usually both. But while the choke me crowd for Vader may be bigger than you'd expect, it's the sad dark-haired ones that get all the attention. I don't know, something about watching a sad boy go down the wrong path and commit genocide, it does something to people, as they'll make excuses for just about everything, because all these homicide factories really need is a hug and some self-esteem, which only that special someone can give them. And this is where people really start simping hard for Snape. In story, Snape, out of options, gets a job at Hogwarts thanks to his new sugar daddy. Unfortunately, when you have a man-child around other children, things tend to not go so great. Yeah, this is the part where people really need to check themselves, because after everything Snape has been, a racist, a wizard Nazi, petty, you can almost forgive all of it, because he did turn around at the end, and decided to put his own neck on the line for the Potters. It's not a redemption, but it's him finally thinking about someone other than himself for a change, with this being the point where he could have taken that grief and made something positive out of it. Nah, he just abuses kids. Now, something that has to be made clear is that Alan Rickman is a legend, who made Snape way more likable than he is in the books. In fact, the movies themselves go out of their way to tone down most of the shit this man does. Snape goes from a guy who clearly doesn't want to be here to being the best part of every scene. It's that subtle difference between him being extremely harsh when Ron and Harry drove a flying car through London and crashed into a tree. Like in the movies, he is pissed, but it's in that strict teacher sense of, you fucked up and I am going to expel you for this, which is a way more understandable reaction than Book Snape, who is basically ecstatic, like, thank God I can finally get rid of these kids. Like, he is absolutely giddy. There's this petulance you don't get in the movies that Snape really does enjoy screwing with Harry, that he enjoys screwing with all of these kids. He doesn't have that cold, calm demeanor that Alan Rickman brought to the role that really sells him as a character. Harry is a permanent reminder that he didn't get the girl. He looks exactly like his worst enemy, and while he may make sure that Harry lives because of Lily, he'll make sure it's a living hell because of James. And if he were just bullying Harry, you could chalk it up to his personal issues, but nah, he was mean to everybody, including Neville Longbottom, whose parents got tortured into insanity because of the prophecy, which again, Snape snitched. Rather than cutting him some slack, because he, ruined his life, Snape would just get pissed off that Neville was nervous, who was scared because Snape was pissed off. He even once threatened to feed Neville's defective potions to his pet frog. By year 3, the kid was so traumatized by Snape that he saw him as his worst fear, giving this kid panic attacks from just existing. Neville was just one in a long line of students that made the mistake of not being a Slytherin. And all this teacher on student violence is coming from the poor Whoopi who got bullied as a kid. So you think he'd be more understanding of what it feels like, but no, he just said fuck these kids. And people just go so out of pocket to justify any and all of his behavior. Like there's theories that it was all just an act in case Voldemort came back and he would say, oh look, no, I'm still evil, I hit kids. There's even one theory floating around that the reason Snape went out of his way to mess with Neville was because he's bitter that Voldemort didn't go after him instead of Harry, making Neville represent the possibility that there could have been a future where Lily lived. And all it would have cost was 2 complete strangers. All these excuses just try and rationalize the fact that Snape was ultimately a selfish person. And people would just go so out of pocket to justify all of his behavior, who only switched sides when the person he cared about was in danger. In spite of having a rough childhood, he was never a great person. But unlike James, who grew out of his douche phase, Snape remained bitter and obsessed with the girl who never saw him as more than just a friend. Just because his magical animal spell changed to match Lily's because true love, I feel like we can all look at this and just see, no, this is obsession. He is a tragic figure, but not in that hot, oh, if only kind of way. He's tragic in that you brought most of this on yourself, man. And it was never Lily's or anyone else's job to explain to him why being a wizard Nazi is bad. And again, the movies do so much legwork to make sure that Alan Rickman, amazing man, pulls off this character. Just look at his death scene. In the movies, his last words are, "You have your mother's eyes," acknowledging that Harry carried that little bit of Lily, but also seeing it as just a part of Harry. It's a small comment to go out on, but it tells you why Snape did what he did and how even in his last moments, he's still thinking of her. But it also has this add-on of like, yes, Harry, you are her son, and that he is thinking about more than just himself. Compare that to the books where his last words are just, "Look at me," which is the same general idea, but it removes the nuance of him finally communicating with Harry and seeing him as more than just his own cradle of issues. In the books, he really just said, fuck this kid, and it was just using him to stare into Lily's eyes by proxy one last time. It's not a more selfish request, because that is really what Snape is. Selfish. People can like Snape. That isn't the problem. He's an interesting character with lots of baggage, but the fandom kind of just ignores or rationalizes all of his worst behaviors, so that they can have the trad-sagic love story that they can latch onto, ignoring how he fell through the original 4chan pipeline, going from an insecure youth to a hate group in record time, with easily the biggest extreme coming from Snapeism. Now, full disclosure, I didn't know about this thing till I started writing the script, and I had already committed to the idea. So imagine my surprise when my dumb excuse to roast Snape stumbled upon a Sarah Z video. Couldn't go into full details, so I'll keep this short. People on LiveJournal back in the early O's decided to make simping official by calling it religion. People would create witch rules through which they would marry Snape on the astral plane, have roleplay with extra steps, Photoshop pictures of him while in wedding attire, all while hate bashing Lily Potter for not immediately forgiving him for calling her a slur. This shit is insane, and it even got to the point where they were declaring Snape in the books to be an inaccurate representation of him, and that the original author got him wrong. They referred to Snape as Master, wanted to be dominated. I'm pretty sure this is just 50 Shades all over again. Shit's absolutely wild, and you should read up on it if you can, as I was just not prepared to talk about this. But ultimately, Snape, good character. Snape in fandom, what the fuck are you guys doing? Thank y'all for watching. This has been Sarcastic Chorus. Like, share, blah, blah, blah. Check out Atlas VPN. Love y'all. Goodbye.